Shalom. Yahweh Ba'Shem Yoshai B'Katah. Israel, Shalom. Yahweh Shema Aladah Ba'Shem Yoshai to the sisters. This is the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General Yahanna. We are not affiliated with any other Israelite group, nor any other Christian organization. So today we're going to talk about how today, not just today, but throughout the weeks and throughout this month, a little bit of last month, there has been a lot of protesting and rioting and, pushing black people to vote. And, the Lord talks about this in the Bible. Voting and pushing riots and all this stuff really isn't going to change the conditions of so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. While you're pushing black people to vote for a new president, that's really not going to fix our conditions, because black people have been voting since the 60s and our condition has never changed. If anything, after we got the rights to vote, our condition has only gotten worse in America. You understand? And that was also after Martin Luther King. After the voting rights, and when we started to get into the 70s and the 80s and 90s, black families started to shatter and fall apart. Black men, black fathers were being kicked out the home, and then mothers and single black, Hispanic, and Native American women were forced to raise their children by themselves. After voting and joining America's government system as black, Hispanic, and Native American people during the 70s and 80s, then you had the crack epidemic. You understand? Pushing crack into our communities. Our men became drug dealers, and our men became drug addicts during the 80s, and also in a little bit of the late 70s. This is what happens when you try to join another race of people that have no intention of benefiting your own. This is what happens. We want to vote for Biden and Bloomberg, and a lot of black people are Democrats. A lot of black people want to be Democratic. At one point in time, black people were actually Republican, but it was a switch in history. But now we're talking about the Democrats because black people believe Democrats are for black people. Well, Democrats are not really for black people, because when Democrats were still in office, nothing has changed for black people. When God is trying to tell black, Hispanics, and Native Americans through the I.S.U.P.K, you understand, that we actually have to come back to God's laws, statutes, and commandments in order to fix our people and actually fix the conditions of our people. And there is actually no other way to do it. We think voting is going to work. We think marching is going to work. We think protesting is going to work. We think rioting is going to work. But none of that is going to stop the violence that has been happening towards black people. Voting and protesting and marching did not save Trayvon Martin. It didn't even save Martin Luther King, and Martin Luther King is dead. It didn't save Malcolm X, and Malcolm X is dead. It didn't save Mike Brown, because Mike Brown is dead. It didn't save Eric Garner, because Eric Garner is dead. Sandra Bland, Akai Gurley, you understand? Philando Castile. All these brothers and sisters were murdered mercifully by the hands of America, by America's great almighty police department that's supposed to protect the people. You understand? These are the things that happen. All right? I'm going to get Joshua chapter 1 verse 8. Because the reason why I'm going to get Joshua 1 and 8, because your Christian pastors are supposed to be your black leaders, right? A pastor is supposed to be a leader that leads the so-called sheep, you understand? That's supposed to lead the people. So your pastors are actually supposed to be in some type of leadership position. But your pastors have not done anything for you at all. Your Christian pastors talk about how to be prosperous and how to be successful, right? But they tell you how to follow your own dreams and your own way and your own thoughts and your own mind in order to be prosperous and to be successful. They tell you to pray to some white Jesus Christ that has never laid his life down for you and that's never going to save you. They tell you to pray to a God that's all loving, that has nothing to do with the Bible. These are what your Christian pastors and your Christian leaders do. But at the same time, it doesn't fix the conditions of our people. But the Christian pastors are supposed to lead the people, supposed to lead so-called black, Hispanic, and Native American people, but they have not been doing their job because they were never they were never raised up by the Lord or ordained by the Most High to do this job. There are specific men that the Lord raised up, and a man that the Lord raised up in order to lead the nation of Israel, in order to lead so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, and that's in the I.S.U.P.K under commanding General Yahanna. You understand? There is no other government body to lead so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And that's one thing we also have to understand as a race of people. We have to stop going to America, right? Their government system and their politics and their political lawyers and their senators and their governors and their city hall councilmen to fix our problems. What we need to do is come back to the Most High to get our problems fixed. And the Lord set up a government body for so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to fix that very problem. So I'm going to get Joshua chapter 1 verse 8. It says, this book of the law. So it says, this book of the law. This is Joshua 1 and 8. It says, this book of the law. So what's the book of the law? The book of the law is from Genesis all the way to Deuteronomy. You understand? The book of the law. Like the law was given to Moses to give to the children of Israel. Like Moses was the man that the Lord raised up to prepare the government body for the Israelites to be under and to follow and to listen to and to serve. You understand? Like that's what the Most High raised up Moses. Moses was the government leader. Like in America, you know how you have Donald Trump as president. Well, during this time, the Lord chose Moses to be the so-called president of the Israelites, of the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. America calls it a president, but in the Bible, it's called a prophet. We don't do presidents and governors and all that stuff. No, we're priests and prophets of the Lord that are the government body of the nation of Israel. You understand? And that's who the Lord set up at that time. And it was Moses. So Moses was the leader of Israel that the Lord raised up. You understand? So and Moses gave the law to the Israelites, the book of the law. You understand? This whole Bible is about the Israelites. It's not about everybody too. So Moses was given the book of the law, the laws, the statutes, and the commandments to the nation of Israel. And it says, this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth. Like when it comes to your Christian pastors trying to unify everybody, and your Christian leaders and so-called black leaders trying to unify so-called black, Hispanic, and Native American people, you know what I'm saying, with other races of people, that's not keeping the book of the law in thy mouth. Like if you want to follow actual God's words, you would have to follow all of the Bible. You would have to keep the book of the law in your mouth. Nowhere should it ever come out of your mouth that is okay to love everybody. That is okay to eat pork. That is okay to be a murderer. It's okay to be some homosexual or some lesbian, or to sleep with prostitutes and whores, and go ahead and Google up an OnlyFans account. You understand? Like all these other stuff, right? Like none of these things should be coming out of your mouth as a leader over so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. No leader ever in Israel ever said it was okay for you to go against the very law God gave to the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Nowhere in the Bible can you find it. Christ literally said himself, I come not to destroy the law, nor the prophets. Well, Moses was a prophet that gave the book of the law, gave the law, statutes, and commandments to the nation of Israel, to so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. So with that being said, what's up, Christians? What's up, ministers and evangelists? Like, come on now, what's up? Keep it real, keep it a beam with me. What's going on? It's because you were never ordained to teach. And you're nothing, and guess what? I'm telling you, you're not ordained to teach, and I'm gonna need you to step down from that pulpit, step down from that podium, and get under the order of commanding General Yahanna and the I.S.U.P.K, and learn how to actually fix the conditions of so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans.